All right, good evening. Today is Monday, March 18th, 2024. This is the Historic Preservation Commission meeting. We'll have a roll call.
Commissioner Beaucamp.
Here.
Commissioner Whidden. Commissioner Dunlap.
Here.
Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Keller. And Chair Haley.
Here. And this evening, we're having some technical issues, so we're not going to be able to do the hybrid. So I don't even say it online, like there's no one online that can even hear me, right?
Yeah, that's true, but.
Right, so for anyone that would want to be online, we can't do that tonight. And so this is recorded and we'll have minutes and everything will be available prior to the meeting. So we apologize for the inconvenience, but we will proceed anyway. So our agenda for this evening, if anyone has any changes or comments about it, otherwise we can have a motion to approve it.
I'd motion to move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And then any public comments on items that are not on our agenda this evening? And seeing none, we'll move to our first probable cause, which is 936 Lafarge Avenue. We'll have a staff presentation. Does anyone have any disclosures to make for this property? Any conflicts of interest or anything? All right, we'll have a staff presentation.
Okay, can you all see that up on the screen? All right, great. You're seeing it just not in presentation mode, right?
Right.
Okay.
That's correct.
When I share my screen like this, I'm not going to be able to see my notes. So if you have any detailed questions, like what year something was, we'll go back over that later because I don't often remember that off the top of my head. But we'll get started here. So yes, this is a probable cause hearing for 936 Lafarge. So we've done a few of these now here this year, but just a reminder that the probable cause process is how the HPC grants approves grant requests for up to $4,000 for residential properties and up to $9,000 for commercial properties. It covers, or up to that amount covers the cost of an assessment. These are reimbursements, they are not matching, and the criteria is based on the landmark criteria, that there's probable cause to believe that it may be eligible for a landmark. So in this case, for 936 Lafarge, you can see up at the top is the 1948 image and the bottom is the 1977. We have sort of a rare situation where we have two, so we can tell that the windows on that front elevation were changed sometime between the 40s and the 70s, but the door remains in place, and you can see on the side on the right, the structure has had new siding, new doors, new windows, new roofing, and the chimney is gone, at least from the outside, but otherwise the form is really intact. And then in this case, as you read in your staff report, this was built around 1900, so it's about 124 years old. It has displays the national form, which we're really familiar with here. And the physical integrity, as I just mentioned, it's really largely intact. There are some changes to the windows and the siding. And then in terms of the social significance, you read about the Bufo family. It has a really long-term history there with a single-family occupancy. And then also in this particular case, obviously people with very interesting histories sometimes don't have sources, but it's always a win really from a preservation perspective if there is a particularly rich source base for a building. And in this case, we do have a lot of different types of oral histories, documents, photographs. And then also Jefferson Place overall, this was an area that was known to have like the Bufo family and another of other Italian, sort of like a mini little Italian enclave. And so it's also speaks to that larger history of the neighborhood as well as the specific building. So with that, staff recommends finding of probable cause, which approves a grant of up to $4,000 toward the cost of a historic structure assessment. The applicants are here tonight. I don't believe they have a presentation. They'll correct me if I'm wrong, but they're happy to answer questions, and I'm happy to answer questions as well.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? All right. Does the applicant want to say anything?
No, just thank you for doing what you do.
Sure, thank you for being here. All right, any public comments for this property before we proceed to discussion? All right, we'll turn it back for discussion.
Sure, I'll start. I think I would agree with staff's recommendation. I think the form is intact. It looks in fairly good condition. Obviously, some windows have changed, but we've seen that on pretty much most of the projects that we review in here. So I don't have any questions. I just agree with moving forward with the grant.
I would say the same thing. I also agree. It's largely intact, and it seems like a pretty straightforward candidate, so.
Yeah, and even the window changes are 50 years or older already, so that's actually not a huge issue.
This looks like the kind of property we'd like to see landmarked, and it looks straightforward.
Anyone like to make a motion? Or do you want to say something? Do you want to go down the line?
What's in line? I'll make a motion to approve the HSA for the property at 936 Lafarge Avenue.
I'll second that.
And we'll do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Beaucamp,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitten,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Keller, and Chair Haley.
Yes. All right, thank you for being here, and staff will be in touch with you, or you can be in touch with staff as far as next steps for the HSA and reimbursement. So thank you very much. We look forward to seeing this property. All right, our next property for probable cause is 623 McKinley Avenue. We'll have another staff presentation. Any disclosures for this one?
Yes, I just need to mention that I have been speaking with the applicants off and on over the past year. I recommended that they pursue and look into the HSA. I don't think it's a conflict of interest. Possibly if we work together and they move forward with the preservation or landmarking, possibly at that time, but I don't think so for this evening.
Okay, thank you. All right.
All right, staff presentation. So, yeah, this is 623 McKinley Avenue. You can see it up on the screen, confirming you can see it on your tablets. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so there was an error. There were two dates given for this assessor's image in the staff report, by the way. So it is actually from 1956 and not 1948. But you can see the 1956 image up on the screen, and you can also see the current view. So there are some changes. It's actually kind of interesting. Some of the things that you would assume were sort of typical of a ranch home were added at some point a little bit later. But there have been some minor changes to the siding, but the windows and the doors and the form remains in place. And a little bit of changes to the windows, it looks like, on that right side of the front elevation, and then potentially also to the roof. And obviously there was a little mini portico added. So this was built in the 1950s, so it's about some 70 so years old. It is characteristic of the ranch form, and I think we have at least one of these, but really it's not a well-represented era for Louisville landmarks, so it's exciting to see one come through. As I noted, the form and the front window is intact, which is great to see, and then there's some relatively minor changes overall. This also has a long-term single-family ownership connection, and then also, you know, sometimes you look at sort of the more typical history of like Italian and English as well, immigration, but then also, of course, there were many different immigrant groups that came to Louisville. This tells a little bit of that history with the Russian and the Slovak connections. So with that, staff recommends finding of probable cause, which would approve a grant for up to $4,000 toward the cost of an assessment. Happy to answer any questions, and the applicants are also here.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Would the applicant like to speak tonight? No, just thank you. Sure, thank you for being here. Any public comments for this property? All right, we'll bring it back for discussion. I feel like this is another pretty straightforward one. The architecture is still largely intact with some minor changes that could be probably reversed if the owner wanted to. The long-term single-family ownership, I think, is important. The age of not being well represented as far as our landmarks is just a good addition to our variety. So I think that's a really good thing. It's 50 years or older and has strong social significance. So I feel like this is a good candidate.
I would agree with that, especially because it's an underrepresented form. I think that makes it particularly significant. So,
I would agree. And seeing it in person, it's in excellent condition as well, so it's a great candidate.
I would move that we approve the probable cause for granting historic structural assessment for 623 McKinley.
I'll second that.
Can we do a roll call, please?
Commissioner Beaucamp,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitten,
yes.
Commissioner Dunlap,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Keller, yep, and Chair Haley.
Yes. All right. So staff will be in touch, or you can be in touch with staff as far as next steps. So thank you very much for bringing your property to us. All right, and our final probable cause for this evening is 700 Pine Street. And we'll have a staff update, or staff presentation.
Okay, and I'm sorry that I didn't say this at the beginning, but all the slides that they're seeing are part of the public record, and so I did print them out in case you want to review them. They're up here in the corner. I apologize, I didn't mention that earlier, but if you've seen the staff reports, it's the exact same thing, just a slightly shorter version. But anyway, for your review if you need.
Does anyone need to recuse himself from this one, 700 Pine? I forgot to ask that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so yep, this is up on your screen, 700 Pine Street. And we've seen this type of situation a couple times recently, actually, but this has already been landmarked. It was landmarked in 2013. There's no record of any grants that were ever awarded. And so because of that, the owners are eligible for up to $4,000 in an assessment grant. So the language that, if you need to look at it, is up on your screen. And of course, there's a picture of the house on Pine Street. I walked by it today and took some pictures as well, but it's covered in snow, so I'm using an older photograph. Staff recommends finding of probable cause, which would approve a grant of up to $4,000 toward the cost of the assessment. And the applicants are also here. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have, and they would also be available, I assume.
All right, any questions for staff?
No.
All right. Does the applicant want to say anything? You don't really need to, but just always offer if you want to. Sure, thank you. Any public comment? All right, we'll bring it back for discussion.
I just had a quick question. Was this property landmarked by the current applicant? Okay, great.
We just currently put the house in.
I'm so sorry. Can you go up to the microphone so we can get the recording? Apologies.
And if you don't mind saying your name and city you live in, just for the public record.
Aaron Vogelsberg, Louisville.
Is the microphone on? I'm sorry, we're a lot of trouble.
Now it is.
Okay, thank you.
Aaron Vogelsberg, Louisville. My mother owned the house since my grandmother's passing in 2008, and we just recently put it in my wife in our name, but I was a part of the process with my mother.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is pretty straightforward. It's already landmarked and they're eligible for so I don't see an issue. Does anyone else have any reservations or anything?
No.
Okay. They also have really good Christmas lights. So.
I think you'll appreciate having the structural assessment done to look at any possible defects or where the property stands going forward. It's helpful.
Anyone like to make a motion?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to approve the HSA for the property at 700 Pine Street.
I'll second.
We'll do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Beaucamp,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitten,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Keller, and Chair Haley.
Yes. So again, staff can help you with the next steps for that. So thank you for taking the next step. Congratulations on the new ownership, and hopefully, yeah, you can just take it forward. So thank you for being here. All right, that concludes our probable causes for the evening. It's always encouraging. Next is our work plan updates, and that'll be from staff.
Yeah, so absolutely, if any of you have any updates that you want to share on what you all are working on, then this is the time as well. But I'll start. I don't really have much right now. We've really been focusing on the comprehensive plan, which I'll give you an update on in a minute. But the things to know are we had a GIS architect for the map project, and we're trying to figure out if we could do that piece in-house, but that person has left the city. And so now I just had a meeting with our IT director this morning, and about potentially still being able to do at least some of that work in-house. But I think probably the next move is just to keep that meeting that subcommittee has, and so, but without the third person or the actual person who knows how to do anything, the GIS architect. And we'll just kind of figure out if this is something that we want to pivot and actually try to put out a call and contract it out, or if this is something that we do want to still try to pursue in-house. So that's the only update there. No other updates on any of the other projects, but I don't know if anybody else has any other things to work on or to update everybody on. If not, I can roll into the next update too. Okay. So let me try to share my screen again. Okay.
No one in the audience is you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting unless you're just really interested. So just wanted to let you have that out.
This is fun, an audience
No, it's
for all of
great.
our
It's
work
not bad,
stuff.
Let them know they don't have to stay.
Actually, please stay for a couple minutes. So in case you don't know about the comprehensive plan, I would love for you to know about it. So just a couple of updates should be showing up on your screen now. The first is the Austin Niehoff House, which is the White House over here that Parks used to be in, that now Economic Vitality and Sustainability are in. So 2 pieces on that. The Sustainability and Parks were working together on doing an interpretive sign outside of the building as a part of their Xeric. They're doing a Xeric garden to display kind of like how cool that is and how it's sustainable, and what plants you can plant, all that kind of stuff. So I heard about that and I thought, well, I would really love to insert some history into that since it's a landmark building. And so just to know that sometime in the next couple months, we're going to be putting up a sign in front of that building. It's going to it's basically going to talk about the plants, sustainability in general, a little bit of parks, I think, as well, and then also the history of the house, and then just sort of like a nod to the fact that we have a preservation program in Louisville that funds these kinds of things. So that's exciting. And then the other update there is staff is putting in a capital improvement project request to do the updates that were called for back in 2014 when it was first, actually the only time it got an assessment. So it's mostly it covers everything. It's some rehabilitation, but it's a lot of structural work that needs to be done. I'm not sure yet whether that'll come out of the grant line item or whether it'll come out of a separate line item, because we have a sort of a separate bucket that we can pull from for a city-owned landmark. So I'm not functionally sure how it's going to work. I've also never been through one of these. I do know there'll be some type of HPC review of everything, of course, as usual. But it'll be a little different. The city will be the applicant, stuff like that. But anyway, we won't have to go into it since you'll be actually hearing, details about it. But I just wanted you to know, if you see anything out there, the changes, that there are some things happening. Okay, so another thing, a general update is for the downtown vision plan. So the open house had about 80 people. I don't know the survey numbers, but I know some of you came to the open house, some of you did the survey, so thank you so much for being involved. We got some feedback on signage, wayfinding I think was the big thing, and then what kind of feel do you want Louisville to have that relate to some of the historic pieces we've talked about. The next steps here are, I think it's my understanding that that team is going to be kind of expanding the timeline a little bit, just because there was so much input and probably for some other reasons that I'm not privy to. But they were trying to go for an April adoption or review by council. I think now it's maybe like a June or so. But just so you know, that project is moving forward, and grateful for your input. And I'm not the case manager for it, so I don't know all the details, but the turnout was great and the survey responses were really great. So thank you for that.
You know the date on the next one yet, or?
Know it yet?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't, but I will let you know when I have
And
it.
I would highly recommend, I just went to the last 30 minutes and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad I came. And it lasted like 45 minutes past when it was supposed to be over. So
Yeah.
it was really, really informative and good. So
Yeah, and that's yeah, Linda, you came and that was awesome. Yeah, it was like a 3-hour open house, which people came in, not, you had to stay there the whole time, but people kept coming and talking, which was awesome. So the downtown vision plan, just for you all in the audience, it's basically it's a project that the city is working on that's run out of the Public Works Department, and it's looking at streets, sidewalks, pocket parks, all the spaces that are city owned in the downtown area, and trying to basically working on a vision for what those should look like, what updates are needed, and that kind of thing. So it's funded from the Louisville Revitalization Commission. I think their commission, LRC. So it's really about trying to kind of update the downtown area in sort of the spirit of bringing businesses and bringing people to downtown. So there's lots of opportunities, I think, in the future, at least one more open house, and of course, it'll have to go through Planning Commission and City Council. So if you are interested and you haven't heard about it yet, let me know. You all have my email, so you're welcome to email me about that.
there's also the survey that they're emailing out and sending everywhere.
And I don't know if that's closed yet.
I just got an email like
I got that
just
email
this
too.
week. Yeah.
Yeah,
To like
so-
make sure you do it. So
Yes,
it's still open.
that's a great segue. So that's actually for the comprehensive plan. I know. We're doing all these plans at one time because there was COVID and then there was the Marshall Fire. And so now everything's happening at once and all of our contracts are expiring, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot going on. It's very exciting, but it can be a little confusing. The downtown vision plan is just the scope that I just described. The comprehensive plan is citywide. It really covers everything that we call land use in the city, but it's like built environment. So it's like, what businesses do you want where, can you get from one place to another, how much preservation do you want where, it's like all those kinds of concepts. But anything that you could see developed, it's really what is covered in the comprehensive plan. So it doesn't have like the most exciting name, but it is a really exciting document. It's very important. So if you're not familiar with it, please feel free to email me. I can send you direct links to the survey. There's an open house later this week as well. I think you guys all have that date already, but it is this Thursday at the rec center. Kids are welcome. It's also drop-in, so it's 5:30 to 7:30. You can come anytime in that window, and there's like a little passport thing that the consultants are doing where you go around, and if you get stickers everywhere, then you can enter in to get a gift card, which is thrilling. So please come, please take the survey. It's gonna be a long process. We've got like a year and a half left, but we're trying right now to talk about what the vision and the values are for the city, and that's really framing all the rest of the conversation. So now is like a pretty critical time to learn about it and to get the word out and to be engaged. So if there's anything that you all need, I know you've heard about this from me a number of times, and also you got that direct email for you all, please do send it out, since what the email sort of said is true. Like, you guys are the ones who are the best ambassadors for that being involved in the city is a good thing to do and that it's meaningful. So do tell your friends and family, at the very least, to take the survey, which is huge actually, but also if they're available to come to the open house. And if there's anything I can do, I'm your staff liaison for everything, so if there's anything that you need from me, let me know on the comp plan, and I will try to get it to you so you can be the best ambassadors that you can be. And then also there was a 612 Grant Avenue came in for a rear addition. It was released at subcommittee. I personally think that's a good thing to see, since I had a lot of meetings with those folks, and they, I think, were really responsive, and I think it was a good, nice addition. And so thank you to those of you who reviewed that, and we got them through the process efficiently. And then there were no demolition reviews that were released. There is one coming next month. And then finally, yeah, so comprehensive plan open house, just talked about that, the survey's open, and then the next meeting that we all have is the April 15th meeting. So if you aren't able to make that, let me know, but that's it. Thank you all for staying through all that.
All right. So the updates from commissioners and members. So Sloan and I went to the Saving Places conference, so we were just gonna do kind of a debrief of what, so do you wanna go first, or do you want me to, or?
You go first.
Okay. It's been like a couple months now, I'm like, I don't know, but no.
It's been like a month, I think, right? Has it been 2?
Yeah, I did not leave my, I left all my stuff in the car. Okay, I can do it. So I think the overarching was, of the conference, was a lot of so we have like history, the story of how things happen, but really making sure that we have all the different stories that overlap, that intersect. So kind of making space for all the different stories that are in our community, in our state, in our country. So being creative and thoughtful and aware of how to incorporate. So as community engagement was a big theme of listening, allowing people to tell their stories. Like storytelling is huge because we have like the narrative, but the stories are where we get all those layers of like what actually happened and who was actually involved and where things actually took place. So the structures are important, but also more importantly is what happened in the structures. That's what makes them come alive and all that. So that was one of the themes. And one of the keynote speakers did a really good job of just really bringing that home of like holding space for all the stories, regardless of the good, the bad, like biases, all that kind of stuff, just allowing all the stories to exist and to be open to them. And then I cannot believe I left my stuff in the car. I almost left it at home and I didn't. And then there was a good amount on like carbon footprint and how, and just general environmental. So like there's CARE, I went to this one. There's a website that you can actually, as architects or redoing
saw this
things.
one too.
Yeah, you can there's a website that you can enter in all the information of like, and compare the carbon of what it would look like to tear it down and build it new versus building it, you know, at different levels of energy efficiency. So that was a really like tangible tool of being able to like have numbers of like, if you take this, you know, this material out, like these specific materials have this carbon footprint. And so that was really, I think, powerful as far as, and anyone can use it. So that's an interesting piece. And they, making like environmentally sustainable neighborhoods, like having neighborhoods kind of band together and everything. I went to one on asbestos that really wasn't very relevant, but but it was, if you have a municipality building or a nonprofit building, they qualify for all kinds of funding and training and surveying if they have any kind of contamination in the soil. So if we ever have a city building or a nonprofit, there's so much funding, especially in the next 2 years. That's kind of and there's no matching. So I don't know. And maybe like the Austin Niehoff, like I don't know if they have any asbestos or contamination or anything that they need mitigated, but that's a city-owned building. So yeah, there wasn't a lot for that. And there was also Boulder did a historic district talk, and that was interesting because they gave it chronological, and they told like why, where, and who kind of did it all. So it was always neighborhood initiated, and it was generally to protect like the prices from increasing or from taking away their neighborhood. And they talked about successes and ones that didn't actually make it, but they were talking about basically it's always neighborhood initiated, but as soon as the houses are expensive and new people move in, the buy-in dissipates. And they haven't created a historic district in like 10 plus years. So I thought it was a good like local, just kind of insight as to how things went. And there seemed like there was one more thing that was kind of interesting, but I can't think of it.
So one of the things that I found really interesting on the first day in the keynote, they talked a lot about the period of significance and reimagining what that really means. And the main theme was the period of significance is today, and that it's an evolving thing and layered to what you were saying. It's not just like a moment in time and it stops. It continues to evolve as the history of the property continues to evolve. So I like that in light of some conversations we've had in previous meetings. My microphone's on, sorry, I'm just not close enough to it, sorry.
Kicking back.
Yeah, anyway, so just having sort of a elasticness, I guess, to our imagination of what is a period of significance and multiple periods of significance coexisting within one property, I thought was really interesting. I went to a lightning talk, and this is not going to be that interesting to anybody but me. But they actually were entirely talking about innovations in woven wire lath for construction, and apparently the original invention of the concept was in my hometown in Connecticut, which I never knew. So that was kind of amazing. So yeah, I think and I went to a wildfire mitigation session, and they talked a lot about what Chautauqua has done on their property, because they're constrained, by the nature of the buildings, the materials used, and the historic significance of the space, and the fact that they are bordered by land that's governed by multiple different municipalities, and just how to be practical. The primary theme of all of that is what can you do, even when you can't do what's ideal. You're not going to spray everything down with crazy chemicals because it would damage the buildings themselves, but what can you do that's realistic and affordable to make a difference and protect historic properties? So I found that very interesting.
Yeah, so it was a good conference, and I think we have some good resources. I went to the one about the National, what's the National Congress of, Library of Congress. That's what it's called? Yeah. And that was really interesting, talking about like first sources and like structures, and are considered like first structure, first resource. That's not the right. Primary resources, sorry. Blah. Anyway, there was interesting stuff, but yeah, that's it.
Thanks. I have a friend who does preservation with the National Park Service, and they echoed the same sort of thing, that with the ideas being important now, they feel like all of the appropriate structures have been landmarked. They should be. And so there's a real effort now to deal with ideas and stories, as you mentioned, which I thought was an interesting change.
The other important thing is they're trying to do the 150 new new sites on the National Register, or not national, state.
They
state
want to add
register.
150 sites by 2026 for the
Right.
150th state anniversary of Colorado.
So we had talked about that last year, of just being aware of that. And so they talked a little more this year just about like the Asian American representation in Colorado is another kind of underrepresented. That's kind of interesting. So, and then the endangered places, Valmont School on Valmont Road is one of them. So that's one of the new, a couple owns it. The Mission Churches in Custia County are on them. Victor has a bowling alley that they didn't know about. Some people did, but a couple bought that and they're trying to get that one saved. And then the Kit Carson Museum
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and the Zuni steam power plant, I think, were the new ones. So, and then one that was lost is 16th Street Mall. That was a place that was on the endangered places like a few years ago, and they just lost it because they're redoing that whole thing. So, interesting. But yeah, that was it. But the 150, I think that might be, I don't know if we have anything to offer, but that's definitely something that we should think about or.
Well, and part of that same talk was just talking about inclusiveness. And
Right.
they said in 2020, only 3.6% of properties on the state register were representative of Black, Latinx, LGBTQ, Indigenous, and women. All combined together adds
Right.
up to 3.6%.
Right.
So the goal is to do better, proactively. So.
Right. I think the good thing about Louisville is we definitely have more of the socioeconomic difference as far, I mean, we have minor cabins, so at least like we have some like, not everyone is like wealthy, beautiful homes, but anyway. That's,
And I think part of that plenary session, didn't they say there were more like mermaids represented
Right. right,
than
Than
all
women.
other
Uh-huh.
minority groups combined or something? Yeah, or than women.
Or
More
definitely, I
mermaids than
think-
women.
yeah.
Are you saying mermaids?
Yes, I am
Mermaids.
saying mermaids.
They were, I don't know what the actual, because they said it wasn't all monuments in the whole country. It was like all notable.
I can't remember, but it was.
And
it
so
made
I
an
don't know what notable ones are mermaids, but
Is that a humorous way of saying there was no female representation?
I mean, I
There are
think
just
there were
a
only
lot
like
of
2 or
mermaids.
3. I think there were only like 2 or 3 like
I didn't write it. I was
I
just
know,
looking for it because I wrote down a lot of
was
stuff,
like
but I didn't write down
like
the number.
women in like positions of like elected women, and there were only like 3. So I don't know how mermaids factored in. I don't know. Yeah. I was like, what are the, and because she specified that it wasn't all monuments, it was just like notable or prominent ones. So I'm like, where are the, I don't know. I'm
We
just
can go
curious.
back. We can
Yeah.
go back and figure it out because
I know.
whatever it was shot. It was
Yeah.
legitimately
Yeah.
like shocking.
No, right. For sure. So funny. Yeah. All right. Any other updates from anyone else? All right. Yeah, our last item is to adjourn.
I'll make the motion that we adjourn for the evening.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night.